Welcome to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Have you ever thought about becoming an entrepreneur? Have you been struggling lately and trying to ignite an entrepreneurial spirit within you? Well, today's guest will discuss why it's an important time for women to start a new business and why it's important to reinvent yourself. Janet Lewis is an accomplished entrepreneur, business owner, and performance and productivity consultant. Janet will share the key skills or mindsets that she believes are crucial for women entrepreneurs in today's dynamic landscape. Janet, welcome to Empowered. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I really am excited about having you on here because I want to talk about mindset. So why is now the perfect time for a woman to start a new business?
So, what is amazing right now is we have this massive change occurring. We have economic uncertainty, we have technology advances, and those two things, when they happen, always mean there's lots of new opportunities that are coming available. And let's be honest, AI is completely changing the game. It's making it so much easier for anyone to be able to start a business these days. It makes it faster and more seamless. So we also have something happening in the job market too, where people are more open to outsourcing work to freelancers and to small business. So there's going to be more opportunities for people, if they're skilled, to be able to start a business and be able to get clients in that manner as well to get started. So I just think, there's so much opportunity now. And anytime something like AI starts, there's so many new businesses that occur and so many chances for people to reinvent themselves and become experts.
Okay, so how can women ignite this entrepreneurial spirit within themselves?
Yeah, it's all about embracing change, and being an entrepreneur is about embracing change. You have to be open to seeing the possibilities. And I think the other biggest thing that's important is who you're surrounding yourself with. So if you honestly are thinking you want to start a business, you've had an idea for a while, maybe you've never taken action on it, I would say to you, start to spend time with other entrepreneurs, other business owners, other people that also want to start a business. Because when you're around that energy, it changes not only your mindset, but it gets you thinking like, I want to do more. And I think I could do that too.
So I love the fact that you think that people should be surrounding themselves with an positive energy, because I firmly believe in that as well. And I think that's very helpful for our psyche and for everything else. Now, in your opinion, why is it important to reinvent yourself?
Listen, you have to reinvent yourselves. In today's world, with the way digital technology is changing, you need to continually be learning. You need to be continually growing. So not only can you stay ahead, but you can kind of ride the wave. And when you think about it, personally, you've been growing your whole life. Like, you're not the same person you were in kindergarten. You're not the same person you were as a teenager. And even as an adult, you continue to learn and grow. And in your professional career, you should be doing that too. But you should be planning for what you want your reinvention to be. And I have seen people who have left their day jobs and decided, you know what? I love social media. I'm going to become a social media guru. So they take all the certifications and then they start a business because that's where they want to operate. And they planned it and they were able to reinvent themselves in that area.
So before we go to commercial break, you talked about artificial intelligence quite a bit in the beginning. How do women use it in order to help advance themselves?
So it kind of depends on what it is that you want to get into. But I would say if you don't have a lot of experience with artificial intelligence, the easiest one to get started with is Chat GPT. And they still have a free version. You can go on, you can play with it, you can test it, you can see how it can work for you. And we talk about using AI in a business sense. But even if you haven't started a business, you can go to Chat GPT and say, hey, I want to make a recipe for this. What
Janet,
ingredients do I
hold
need?
on to that thought. We're going to go back to commercial break and then talk about ChatGPT. Don't go away. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. On today's episode, we're discussing igniting your entrepreneurial spirit and reinventing yourself. And Janet, my apologies. Before we went to commercial break, you were talking about ChatGPT and recipes. Can you please continue?
So I wanted to give a simple example that everybody could relate to.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of people, especially if they're not really into tech, are kind of afraid to try it. But listen, you can't break anything on ChatGPT. It's one of the simplest, most user-friendly apps to be able to use. So whatever your daily tasks are, even if you don't need help with it, just go to ChatGPT, talk to it like it's your assistant, talk to it like your friend or your mom. Like you're basically asking it questions and it's going to give you back a response. And then you can start to familiarize yourself with it and figure out how you can also use it in the workplace as well.
I was also told that you should, when you speak to ChatGPT, you should ask them about yourself. And they said, it's really amazing. I went to ChatGPT and said, write a bio of mine, like write my own bio. And it had me as an award-winning author that tours the world, which I thought, well, this is kind of nice. I kind of like this.
What? I actually haven't done that, but I'm going to go back and do that. I typically use ChatGPT, like I might write something and then I'll cut and paste it into ChatGPT. And I might ask it a question like, do you think I'm missing any of the main points? Or can you rewrite this and improve it? Or can you rewrite this at a grade 4 level? And so there's lots of different ways that you can use it. And it's just all about asking it the right question.
So, yeah, and asking the right question. Now, before we went to break, you also talked about reinvent yourself. How does one do that? And how can you reinvent yourself in cultivating multiple revenue streams for entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so I think like that's a great question. And I think when we're talking about creating new revenue streams, as an entrepreneur, business owner, even if you're just starting your new business, you should be looking at what other streams of revenue can you have that are going to help your business grow. And reinventing actually allows you to stay open to all of the different possibilities. So that's why it's important to have that open mindset. And then you're able to look at your business and say, hey, you know what? We offer this service, but it seems like there's a small demand for this other service. Why don't we give it a try?
So, how can women identify and capitalize on new business opportunities and give it a try?
You have to stay connected. So I would say if you're thinking about it, you need to know what changes are occurring, where there are gaps. Like maybe you have something favorite that you love already, it's a product or service, and you see that there's something wrong with it and how it could be fixed. We've seen so many people come out with new businesses that are similar to another business, but they've actually taken it and improved on it and given it a little bit of a twist. So I think those are things that you kind of want to pay attention to, and also your own skill set and what it is that you're bringing to that business and how you're adding value.
So, how can women balance reinventing themselves then with staying true to their authentic values and their principles? Because it's very easy to veer off.
It is for sure easy to veer off. And I was guilty of that in one of my businesses for sure. When I first started it, I had a certain mission and vision and I altered path and it was a mistake. But I think the biggest thing is you really need to know who you are, what your core values are, what's important to you, and does what you want to do align with that? And the other thing I want to say is you mentioned a key word, authenticity. Authenticity is so important, especially in the online world. And I'll tell you, there are people that are not being authentic online and they're being called out for it. I've seen fitness influencers get taken down by people because they're altering their photos in order to sell programs. And, in that particular area, you want to look like that person. So them altering what they look like is not doing anyone any favors.
Well, sticking to your principles, sticking to your values, and being authentic is important, whether it's in business or even in your personal relationships. So we're going to go to break. When we come back, we'll keep talking about, challenges that women are facing in entrepreneurship. So please don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. On today's episode, we're discussing igniting your entrepreneurial spirit and reinventing yourself. Janet, before we went to break, you had mentioned a word that really stuck in my head, and it's failure. And there are so many women out there that are afraid of failing, afraid of taking a bit of risk because they're afraid of failure. But failure is actually good. It's what you take from it. What are your thoughts of failure?
Yeah, listen, I think you have to fail to succeed. And
agreed.
I'm an ex-athlete, so I'm used to failing over and over again and putting in the practice to get success. But along this entrepreneurial journey, you will have so many failures, and it's okay to fail. Not everything is going to end up as you planned. And there's actually a lot of entrepreneurs that start one business. They get into it, 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, a year, and they figure out, this isn't for me. And that's okay. And you don't have to look at that as a failure. You need to reframe it as being an opportunity for learning and growth.
I totally agree with you. I think that, when you fail often enough, it builds upon your foundation for success. So we're on the same page here. I want to move on to challenges. In your view, what are the most significant challenges faced by women in entrepreneurship, and how can they overcome them?
Yeah, I think depending on who you ask, you get very different answers.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will say it's lack of resource. Other people might say it's work-life balance. But to be honest, I think the biggest challenge is their mindset, their belief in themselves, and they're also worried too much about how other people perceive them. And the fourth one I would say is not making their own dreams a priority. And I think sometimes as women, we become our own worst enemies because we use the word fear already, but we create these fears in our head, and we sometimes have dialogues that go on. And I like to call it a record player. So it's like you have that record player that keeps going and going and going. And you actually have to take that record player off and put on a new one that has positive information. You have to recognize the value that you bring. And every single person has skills. They have something they can share. They have something that other people can learn from. And so the key is really figuring out what that is that you can share. And the other thing I think for women that's challenging is women are expected to drop everything for everybody else. And so if you're a mom, if you're a wife, doesn't matter what your role is. If something happens, you're supposed to drop everything. And women don't tend to make their dreams that priority, but it's okay for them to make their business a priority. It's okay to say no to some things. And when you say no, you don't have to give a full-blown explanation. You can just say, no, I can't make it.
And own it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to step back because we were talking about challenges, and you were talking about the record player in your head. And so many women struggle with all that negative think, right? And the problem is, you're the only one who's experiencing that negativity in your head. And the more you think about it, the worse it gets and the stronger it gets. And we need to get away from that. So I want to talk to you about how can women overcome fear and that dreaded imposter syndrome as well? Because I don't care how successful you are, we all suffer from imposter syndrome. So I want to talk about overcoming fear, the imposter syndrome in an entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, so it's interesting because imposter syndrome, especially in the last 3 to 5 years, has been thrown out a lot. We've seen a lot more people, like big names, talking about it, indicating that they've also had it. And they're people who you never ever would have thought would have suffered from it. And I think we need to reframe imposter syndrome. Like, because you have a fear, why do we always look at fear as being a bad thing? Sometimes when we have a fear, it's because we just really want to do a great job. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to do a great job and being afraid that we might not be up to that level. Because if you have that fear, it's going to drive you to do the best, I think.
I totally agree with you. I sometimes, when I'm the most terrified and my heart feels like it's going to be jumping outside of my mouth, that's when I perform the best. And that's when I am the best. So when we come back, we'll keep talking about fear, imposter syndrome, challenges, and women and entrepreneurs. So don't go away. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. On today's episode, we're discussing igniting your entrepreneurial spirit and reinventing yourself. And today I'm joined by Janet Lewis, founder, Janet Lewis Consulting, and www.curiosityu.ca. Janet, before we went to break, we were talking about, women dealing with fear and the imposter syndrome. Tell us about your own experiences with fear and imposter syndrome and how you overcame them.
Yeah, so I have had quite a few, so I won't share them all, but
I think we all have.
I think I'll share the most recent one. Is about 4 or 5 years ago. One of my friends who I met through work came to me and said, Janet, you should be helping other women start online businesses. And I thought, how can I do that? And I didn't feel like I had enough knowledge or value to give, even though I'd been running an online business for over 15 years. And so there was just a lot of self-doubt there. And I actually worked with this amazing business coach that helped me see how other people saw me, because I didn't see myself the way other people saw me. And I think that's one thing that a lot of women have a challenge with, and the things that we tell ourselves in our head, we wouldn't say to our best friend. So why are we saying them to our own self?
And you make a great point here, because we are our own worst enemies. We always try to uplift each other, but when it comes to our own selves, we're not as giving. We're not as we're not as good to ourselves as we are to our friends and other women as well. So this is a perfect segue into what key skills or mindsets do you believe are crucial for women entrepreneurs in today's dynamic landscape?
Listen, I think you have to be adaptable. You need to be able to change your plan in order to kind of make things work, especially with the rate of speed at which things are changing right now. You also need to be resilient. So earlier we talked about making mistakes and learning from them. When you make a mistake and learn from it, it helps you build up that resilience. So you can look at it that way as well. You also have to have a growth mindset and be into continuous learning. You will come across people in this online industry that will tell you, this is easy. It takes no time. It's set it and forget it. And I'll tell you, if anyone tells you that, run the other way. It's not true.
Well, nothing's easy.
No.
That's the truth. Nothing's easy, and everything good is a lot of hard work and a lot of learning, as you said. So what advice do you have for women who want to diversify their income streams, but are unsure of where to start or what to do?
So I think start simple. Look at the current skills that you have. Look at what you enjoy doing. And is it a good skill? And is there something in the marketplace that you can offer to people? And now there are so many ways to get started. There are websites like Upwork, where if you do have a service, you can list your services on there, and people will hire you. There's just so many other ways to get work and get it paid and get paid well than just having a full-time job.
So we've got less than a minute left. I can't believe that this show is over. This episode is over. It's gone by so quickly. But what's the biggest lesson that you personally have learned in your entrepreneurial journey?
I made a really big mistake in one of my businesses, and that was I became really comfortable. So I knew what I was doing Monday to Friday, and every day was set up. I stopped learning and growing. And when you stop learning and growing, especially in the online space, your business stops learning and growing. So I think it's really important to stay in that mindset of continually being open to learning and being open to change.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Janet.
Thank you.
Janet's mission is to ignite a spark of curiosity within individuals, empowering them to unlock their future potential. Now, remember, you have the power from within. When you decide to reinvent yourself, make sure that you challenge yourself, try new things, keep an open mind, and ask questions. Say yes to new experiences and step outside of your comfort zone. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski, and I'm here to empower you and make frugality fashionable. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.